Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike Whitmer from NCMIC's Corporate Relations team, and I'm going to be hosting the webinar today. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items I'd like to review with you. All of our listeners are on mute. If you have questions that you'd like to ask our guest, please enter them in the chat feature within the webinar platform. We will address questions as time allows at the end of the program. If we don't get to your question, please feel free to contact us and we'll be happy to talk with you and connect you to resources to help. Today's webinar is live and being recorded. The recording will be emailed to all registered attendees following the program. We'll also post the recording in the resources section of ncmic.com. It does take a bit of time to process the recording, so please be patient with us and we'll get it posted as soon as it's available. Our next webinar is on June 15th at 2 p.m. Central Time. I hope that you'll be able to join us for that. Now I'd like to introduce our guest, Kim Klapp. I think most doctors realize that their team is key to a successful practice. Chiropractic assistants are the gatekeepers for new patients, referrals, retention, and collections in a chiropractic office. Truly, your CA is the most valuable asset in your practice. Kim runs a practice in Michigan and is a coach for chiropractic assistants. Her coaching company, Assistants for Chiropractic Excellence, or ACE as it's known, was started in 2000 to provide quality coaching for CAs based on her experience of running a practice in today's environment. Kim's a well-recognized speaker within the chiropractic profession and teaches strategies based on her experience in a successful practice. So Kim, thank you for being with us today. I'm really looking forward to the program.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and turn the program over to you.
All right.
Remember, listeners, if you have a question you'd like us to discuss, please type it into the chat and we'll address it as time allows at the end of the webinar. Kim, platform's all yours.
Sharing my.
Okay.
We're going to just get this up and running. No matter how many times we do it, it's just a joy, right?
That's right. You know,
I do appreciate you guys for your patience, for inviting me and for being on. And here we go. We're going to get this going in just a moment. You know, that's just so funny. Okay. And here we go. All right. So sorry about that little glitch.
I can see it. It looks great. The platform's all yours. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much again for inviting me. I appreciate that. Always appreciate the opportunity to help more CAs reach higher levels of excellence. And thank you, CAs, for joining me. Now, whether you're a brand new CA or a seasoned veteran, I do believe there's always room for growth. What I've determined in the 28 years I have under my belt of running a practice, plus training and coaching CAs worldwide, is that the practice that a patient has in your office can range drastically. You know, at one end of the continuum here, they can have a completely awful experience, obviously not what we want, but unnecessary long waits, a chaotic environment, you know, being insulted or ignored, you know, all those negatives that I covered on our podcast. Or they can have an exceptional experience, you know, where the patient can't wait to post a glowing review and, you know, bringing their friends or family in, or of course, they could experience anything in between. Unfortunately, that's the case for the majority of the patient visits in most offices. It's just rather lackluster. And there's a reason for that, because the continuum of patient experience in the front office is dependent on the chiropractic assistant that they encounter. And so to co-opt the 5 zones from mental health on the one side of the continuum, we have the CA in crisis mode. So stressed out, you know, which causes all kinds of problems and actually repels patients, you know, or maybe they're not in crisis. They're quote unquote just struggling due to lack of training, lack of systems, aren't trained yet, they don't have the skills. And on the other end of the spectrum, as you see, is the CA who's excelling, you know, who's creating those uber positive experiences. But the truth is, all of us have probably been all over this continuum on different days. I know that in November of 2020, when Dr. Tom, my mom, and my dad were all hospitalized within a span of 36 hours, everyone on my team, aside from myself and one of our doctors, were quarantined. And yet myself and the one doctor managed to keep the practice open and take care of our clients. I promise you, I was on the left end. I was in crisis. And I'm sure there have been times in your life that have put you there, or even to the struggling stage, you know, with snafus in your practice, communication breakdowns, running out of some necessary supply, team conflict, you know, or moving up the ladder, just barely surviving, you know, feeling unmotivated, apathetic, having a lack of focus, doing the bare minimum just to get by, which is literally performing at 50%, failing by most standards. So today I'd like to share 4 potential action steps to help you continually improve the patient's experience. Now, if you don't like the first one, stick around for the second or the third. I'm going to cover a lot today, and don't try to implement too much at once, or you're going to be putting yourself and your practice in stress mode instead of growth mode. So, the approach that I take in Assistance for Chiropractic Excellence is all about making small, effortless changes that make a huge positive difference. But before I get to step one, I want to start with a story about an aquarium manufacturer who is trying to cope with a major problem. Now, despite the company's best efforts, a frustratingly large percentage of these beautiful custom made glass aquariums, no, this is not a picture of that, but they did arrive at their destinations broken, if not shattered. Now, they were desperate for a solution that would save their business, so they hired Edward de Bono. He's the one who coined the term lateral thinking. Now, de Bono had no expertise in aquariums or glass or packaging materials, overnight freight, or any other form of special delivery. However, he quickly devised a solution that didn't involve additional costs, insurance, or headaches, and it wasn't to switch delivery companies. His recommendation was to simply write the customer's address on a packing label and affix it to the side of the aquarium without any packaging whatsoever. Now, the idea was crazy enough to work, and it did, just as he predicted. Because once the handlers could see that they were dealing with glass, the aquariums were treated with TLC from pickup to drop off, and the company's breakage problem all but disappeared. Now, you might be wondering, why is she sharing this? Well, the reason I love that story is because it applies so much to what it takes for CAs to be successful at creating an exceptional client experience, and that's clarity, which is why our first action step is to get clear. So get clear that the front desk actually is truly the gateway to the success of your office. It's like mission control, because from it, you control your practice volume, whether you invite more patients in or keep them out. You control appointments, those that are made according to the doctor's recommendations, or those patients who leave the office claiming that they'll call you. You control collections, whether you have more money coming in or people leaving without paying. You control referrals, whether you're attracting more or less new patients. You control walk-in new patients and retention, whether or not they come back. But sometimes as CAs, we can't see the forest for the trees. To quote BJ Palmer, get the big idea and all else follows. So we're going to start today with the big picture, the view from 30,000 feet. So it is critical that you and your entire team CAs are all on the same page as your doctor. After all, you serve as a representative of the doctor, of your practice, and the profession. And you have way more opportunities for interaction with patients than your doctor does. On the phone, via email, text, during check-in, check-out, and virtually every other point where the patient is interacting with your office. And it should be it should be obvious, but in order for your clients to have an exceptional experience, as a CA, you need to get clear on chiropractic. Unfortunately, when I did a search on Shutterstock for an image of a chiropractor, these are the images that came up. Well, I wonder where Shutterstock and the public get their perspective. Oh yeah, from us. So here's a sample of pretty typical pain-based advertisements that many practices use to communicate to the public why they need chiropractic care. So let's just connect the dots for a moment. These ads send a very clear message. If you have pain, you need chiropractic care. Absolutely, I would never disagree with that. Unfortunately, what also comes across loud and clear by default is that you only need chiropractic care if you are suffering from pain, especially neck or back pain. So is it any wonder that a new patient who comes into your practice because of these pain-based messages has difficulty understanding asymptomatic corrective and wellness care for optimal function? So the problem is that our profession has been sending the wrong message. However, thanks to the research of Dr. Heidi Havoc, John Barwell, Stephanie Sullivan, just to name a few, we now understand that chiropractic improves brain function. So the brain-based approach that we've been implementing in our practice for the last few years helps clients understand the role of the nervous system as the master control system of the body. So when life's physical, chemical, and emotional stresses accumulate, the brain's ability to regulate the autonomic nervous system becomes impaired, resulting in damage, then degeneration, and then disease. So stop for a moment and think about how you explain chiropractic. When I do a live presentation and I get to ask for volunteers, sad part is I rarely get any takers. And that's a clear indicator of a problem. When CAs in a room all together don't have enough certainty to share chiropractic, in the safety of a seminar with their peers. If that's the case, how can we possibly do so in the community? So, my simple explanation is that chiropractic adjustments restore the brain body connection to enable natural healing and optimal function. And that's why clarity about chiropractic is the starting point. So, please, CAs, if you don't already know, ask your doctor how they would prefer that you explain chiropractic in your practice. I know that's just one more to do add, one more thing to add to your to do list, to your already jillion duties that we as CAs are responsible for getting done. And I know I often feel like all those duties that we need to accomplish, it's kind of like being given a big handful of puzzle pieces and being told to put them together. Well, if that's the case, what would make the job so much easier? If you had the box, right? If you could see the big picture, if you had a clear vision of what that finished puzzle was supposed to look like. And that is why it is so important to have a clear vision and a mission in your practice. As CAs, we are extremely detail oriented. We are fabulous at dotting those I's and crossing those T's. But it's super helpful for us to start out each day focused on the big picture rather than just concentrating on the what and the how of our jillion duties. Because the bigger your why, the higher you'll fly. And because we've got some time constraints down to an hour, I'm not going to read Dr. Tom's practice vision statement, though I was extremely proud he was such a visionary, especially for helping to create the task force to form a strategic plan for our profession. And the vision statement in your practice is private. It's just for your team. But your mission statement is public. And we post ours everywhere. It's framed on our wall, on our welcome booklet, on our website, our envelopes, you name it. And as you can see, ours is to help the people of our community achieve health and wholeness by reconnecting to their innate source of healing through education, enlightenment, and chiropractic care. So we want those mission statements to serve as our North Star, to keep our team headed in the right direction. It's your yardstick, your gauge, your gold standard, if you will. If a circumstance comes up in your office and you're not sure what to do, just refer to your mission and decide. So let's say a potential new patient calls and they want to get in at 6 p.m. and your initial visit takes an hour, plus the data entry afterwards, and you close at 7 and you have plans after work. Well, what do you do? Tick tock, tick tock. Well, hopefully, after reading your mission, you welcome the opportunity to help the people of your community. Think about it this way. What's going to matter a year from now? That you were 15 minutes late for dinner or that you were instrumental in creating a potential miracle in someone's life? If you do need help crafting a vision or a mission statement, just scan this code here at my website for a great download. All kinds of free resources there. But before we go any further, let me share one of my favorite stories about vision. A man was passing by a construction site and he saw 3 bricklayers. And he approached the first bricklayer and asked, "What are you doing?" And the man answered, "Laying bricks." Duh. He moved on to the second one and asked the same question, "What are you doing?" The second man answered, "Making a living." So then he moved on to the third bricklayer and asked him, "What are you doing?" And this man replied, "Building a cathedral." But the point is, you can see by the different answers what their different approaches are to the work that they do. What would your answer be if someone asked you that in your office, at your front desk? Would you say, "Well, I'm entering codes in my software system"? Or would you say, "Well, I'm earning a living"? Or would you say that you're helping to create miracles? Because hopefully you realize that as a CA, that's exactly what you're doing. No matter what it is in your office that you're physically doing, you're playing a critical role in creating miracles in the lives of others. So figure out, what's your why? Why are you a CA? What's your purpose? What keeps you motivated to share chiropractic? Think about the difference that makes for your patient experience. Not only do we have a practice vision and a mission statement, but we also have a CA mission statement in our practice. Now, our CAs crafted this at a team meeting without my involvement, and I am incredibly proud what they came up with. It's to embrace and share the benefits of chiropractic and a healthy lifestyle in every opportunity with a positive attitude, inviting spirit, exceptional service, and desire to help others. I think they rocked it. Now, let me just back up for a second. This was not their first version. Their first version was pretty much confined to what they did in the practice, within the 4 walls of the office. However, do you stop being a CA when you leave the office? Well, hopefully not, because that's where you can make the biggest impact in your community. So we kick off every morning's team huddle by reading aloud both the mission statement for our practice and for our CAs before we unlock the door. So we say, rather than getting down to business, we choose to rise up to purpose. Think about how much easier everything flows when you start out with that big picture in mind. So if you aren't clear already, maybe one of your potential action steps after today could be to figure out your why. Get clear on why you're a CA. Let Let me share an example of my why. This is an advertisement for a hospital in Ann Arbor, 1 mile from our office. And they're featuring their patient Rachel as a testimonial. And it reads, after an injury to her leg triggered a nervous system reaction, she lived in severe pain. Let's see, nervous system reaction caused by an injury. Do you think they referred her for chiropractic care? Nope. Their solution, the one that they're really proud of? Yep, they amputated her leg. So Rachel is one of my whys, along with the countless others who don't know about chiropractic before they undergo a necessary surgery, or before they get addicted to opioids, or live in a life, in a state, in anything other than optimal function and natural healing. All right. So once we're clear on chiropractic and our why, the next step is to get clear on the core values of your practice. Now, ours include respect, integrity, and exceptional service. And as a CA, if you understand that respecting your client's time is one of your core values, well, that helps you minimize unnecessary waiting and it increases your practice capacity. Like I mentioned, another value is respect. And we make a point of respecting our client's time. And we cater to those who care about convenience, those who lead a busy life and love the idea of getting in and out of the office in 10 minutes or less for a typical chiropractic adjustment. Now, if that concept makes you cringe, calm down. Think about the auto mechanics who change tires on a race car during a pit stop. They are amazingly quick because they're very highly skilled and very experienced. So we like to provide that high level quality care without making people wait or wasting their time. We're like a well-oiled machine in our practice. We think about those parents who shuttle their kids from soccer to piano. We want to make it convenient for them to get their entire family checked and then on to whatever their next activity is. So a lot of the systems in our practice are designed to help us take care of more people, since everyone needs chiropractic care. Now, you can find a comprehensive list of core values on the website. Again, they can be downloaded at chiropracticassistance.com. All right, so next is to get clear on your practice goals. Now, that one's pretty easy. Docs like to talk about how many new patients, how many patient visits, how many appointments, your reschedule rate, your care programs, etc. All that you're aiming for each week. Now, notice I didn't mention a collections goal, and that's because in our office, we've always found that when we focus on our mission of helping as many people as possible with the right procedures and our trained team members in place, the money follows. All right, next, you want to get clear on the doctor's objectives. When I specifically mean the doctor's objectives for the clients, now that's usually not as clear to your team as the numeric practice goals. In our practice, for example, our objective is to help our clients maintain as optimal nervous system function as possible. Understand, the more clear that you are as a CA on your clinical objectives, the more you can hone your communication and your patient education accordingly. And that's going to equate to increased patient compliance. And then clarify the role of a CA. Now, we all know that CAs have those jillion tasks to juggle, all those puzzle pieces. But we need to be clear that the main role of a CA is to get new patients into the office and to get them back according to the doctor's recommendations. In a nutshell, get them in, get them back. But beyond that, I believe that the ultimate goal of a CA is really to build as many win-win relationships as possible between your practice and the community. That's a much bigger vision than what a CA does in the office, because we understand that from an etymological perspective, doctor doesn't mean healer, it means teacher. A chiropractic assistant is really a teaching assistant. So we need to expand our vision as CAs if we want to make a huge difference. Not only as the gatekeeper of the practice, but also in the role that we play outside of the office, like I mentioned earlier in regards to our CA mission statement. All right, next, get clear on priorities. Sometimes improvisation is necessary. You can't see everything coming. The crystal ball takes time off. However, the surprises are a lot easier for you to manage if the doctor's decided what takes priority in your office and has communicated to your team in advance. Because most of the problems come up because your team is forced to guess how the doctor would want something handled, and ESP just doesn't work. So clarify what the number one priority is in your practice. And ours is always the patient experience, always. And that makes it easy for our team to remember to focus 100% of their attention on the client instead of on the computer or their coworkers, and also to maintain that positive attitude that we'll talk about in a minute. Spoiler alert. Now, when it comes to patient visits, make sure that the doctor has determined which scenario takes precedence and communicate it to your team. For example, if you have to choose who to vote your attention to, the patient on the phone or the one in the office, who do you choose? Well, in our office, we love the one you're with. That means the one who's made the effort to come to the office. What about an established client visit or a new patient? In our office, we realize it's the new patient. The reason we do this is because, again, new patients only have this one first visit to gauge your office and the amount of waiting. Whereas our established clients know that we respect their time and are usually in and out, like I said, in less than 10 minutes. So if we tell the new patient that the doctor will be with them in a few minutes and they wait for 15, 20, 30 minutes, they're going to assume it's always like that. Plus, we've violated their trust. On the other hand, we can typically make it up to our established clients. I find that free mini massage certificates work wonders. Now, when it comes to the determining which of the jillion duties takes priority, it always comes back to the main role of a CA. So whichever duties that bring a new patient into our office or back to our office according to the doctor's recommendations, that's what takes priority. So obviously making missed appointment contacts always takes precedence over any clerical duties. Also, make sure to clarify any thresholds. Set limits on what's acceptable in your practice. For example, obviously we don't want patient balances, but have a threshold in case there is one. So set it by either a visit or a dollar amount. So in the event that client forgets their wallet and their phone and LOL, you have a threshold set of either one visit, for example, or $100. We happen to have a one visit grace period, once per patient. Same thing with tardiness. Set a threshold for how long you'll hold an appointment time before they'll need to reschedule for later that day. Also, have your doctor set a threshold for what you as a CA are empowered to do to prevent a negative client experience from snowballing. You don't want an upset client. Let's say there was a scheduling snafu on the office's part. You don't want that client to leave your office fuming and go home and write some scathing review. So find out what the threshold is on what you can do to keep them happy. And lastly, get clear on your intentions. Again, think about your why. Think about, for example, internal marketing events. If you're planning on hosting a patient appreciation day, and the reason for that is solely out of a desperate need for new patients, or your reasons stem from fear or out of lack, your results are going to reflect that, and that you're focused on getting instead of giving. However, if you focus on your patients and on your community and serving others, you're going to have a lot more fun and success. So hopefully you can see the value in our first action step of getting clear when it comes to the patient's experience in your practice. By the way, when it comes to making decisions in your practice, about anything really, virtually anything, patient education, practice equipment, dress code, office hours, procedures, exams and x-rays, care programs, insurance participation, scheduling, internal marketing, just about everything you can name, you can make much more congruent decisions when you're clear on the big picture. All right, let's move on and talk about the difference between ordinary and an extraordinary patient experience. And really, it's just 6 inches. Now, if you're one of my friends on the webinar, it's not those 6 inches you might be thinking about if your mind's in the gutter. I'm talking about the distance from ear to ear. In other words, your headspace. That's what makes the difference in you and in your performance, which will eventually improve your practice. But first, you have to change your mindset. Attitude is a service issue, good or bad. People with bad attitude give bad service. Conversely, people with a good attitude tend to give good service. So what do you think the first step is in giving exceptional service? Right, it's ensuring that you have an exceptional attitude. It all starts with your thoughts, because your thoughts are reflections of who you are and your attitude. It's not life that's boring or your work that's boring. Work seems boring to boring people, but that same work seems fun to fun people. In other words, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. Now, before you start rolling your eyes at me and give me those yeah buts, let me share a research study with you. And I first heard about this study from Dr. Joe Dispenza at a Life Vision seminar. Now, Dr. Dispenza is a chiropractor featured in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? And he's an author of a jillion books. Anyway, he related a great study where they showed a slideshow of photos of weddings and funerals to 2 groups of people. One group of people were clinically depressed. The other was not. We'll call them the happy group. And when asked, the happy people reported that there were more pictures of weddings in the slideshow. The depressed people reported more pictures of funerals. Even though, as you may have guessed, the number of photos of weddings and funerals were equal. Now, when I first heard that study, that was my aha moment. Because whether you're seeing the world as positive or negative, it's not because of what's going on out there in the world, it's because of what's going on inside your head. And why does that matter to the patient's experience? Well, here's a Gallup opinion poll that I absolutely love, where if you're sitting down, you should be. They polled 100 people, and 99 out of 100 people reported that they would rather be around more positive people than negative people. Duh, can't believe they funded the study. But what type of impact do you think that has for the success of your office or for your office volume? What about your new patient referrals? The bottom line is that by having a positive attitude and high energy state, that raises the vibration of your office and it attracts more people and more of what you want to your practice. So I need you to understand, CAs, you make the difference. So many patients come in and come back to your practice just because of you. And we hear this time and time again in our office. Our video testimonials, our client questionnaires, our online reviews constantly have raves about our team. Clients love coming in and being greeted warmly, having everyone know their name, and that just overall phenomenal experience. Because unfortunately, there are way too many other places in this world that are filled with negativity and rudeness and coldness or apathy. So, for what may be the one time in someone's day, or God forbid their week, people can experience a warmth, a kindness, healing, a haven just by being in your office's positive environment. And as a chiropractic assistant, you have tremendous healing potential. Sometimes we discount that since we don't have that DC degree. One time I was out to lunch with a friend who happened to be a chiropractic spouse at the time, and she had what I now refer to as the 5 most dangerous words that a CA can say. She said, "I'm just a chiropractic assistant." And that shattered me. There's no such thing as just a CA because a CA is a phenomenal, fantastic position. You know, as CAs, we have tremendous healing potential. We can make a connection with patients. Think about the difference that you can make with a smile, a hug, a touch, a positive intention. There are numerous studies involving the power of distant prayer or intentionality. And a great example is one that was randomized, triple blind, and controlled, in which over 200 infertile women were undergoing in vitro fertilization. Now, in the study, neither the women nor their doctors knew about the study. One group was prayed for by strangers halfway around the world, while the other group wasn't. And the women who had been prayed for had nearly twice as high of a pregnancy rate as those who had not been prayed for. So think about the difference that you make. Become empowered by your ability to help patients reach their healthcare goals. Now, obviously, we're not able to perform a chiropractic adjustment, but we are certainly capable of helping with an attitude adjustment. All right, now that we've gotten clear and we're thinking positively, let's move on to our third action step, which is to create an exceptional experience, which is to send positive messages. You are always giving out signals. So make sure that they're sending the right message, that's congruent with that purpose. According to Barbara DeAngelis, people gauge you 7%, only 7% by what you say, by the words coming out of your mouth. 38% is by how you say it, your inflection, your tone, etc. The majority, however, the green 55%, that is based on nonverbal cues, your vibes, your energy, your passion, your enthusiasm, basically who you are, what you emanate. And that's why your certainty about chiropractic and your mindset are so critical to the level of service that you provide. So consider, how do you show up to your practice? And let's start with how you show up mentally. Well, statistically, most CAs are female. And let's face it, females have a propensity to focus on drama. It's not my opinion. There's a phrase, drama queen, not drama king. And it's typically negative. Who did what to whom? So stop and decide if you're going to focus on drama or on your authentic self. In other words, the person you were created to be. And the gauge I like to use is the reality show gauge. In other words, if the topic of your conversation in the practice could be on a reality show, you want to leave it at home or at least outside. So one strategy I suggest is to have a depository, a tiny cute little wastebasket, a shelf, a coat rack, something by the door that your team uses. Pick some inanimate object to designate as a depository. There's a story behind that. We don't have time. Anyway, but pick something for anything disruptive. And so whatever negative thing gets into your head before you get to the office, maybe it was something you heard on the radio or saw on social media post or something in your personal life, anything negative, leave it at the door in that depository. Because when you start off the day coming in and talking about what a jerk someone is or how bad something is, that's what sets the tone. And we don't want to set it by something negative. If you leave it outside, you won't be tempted to talk about it. So let's say you had a fight with your spouse. Just leave it at the door. And at the end of the day, you have the choice to pick it up and lug it back home with you, or hopefully you can decide it's better just to leave in that little wastebasket. Now, what about when someone asks you, hey, how are you? How's your day? How do you reply? Are you a Debbie Downer? Do you say, oh, fine, no, we're okay, or not bad? God, I sound like Eeyore. Hopefully not, because that's as good as your day's going to get. Instead, respond with, oh, it's awesome, excellent, phenomenal, terrific, extraordinary. Patients smile when you answer really positively. Plus, you set an example for them. Again, you actually raise the vibrational level of your office and it buoys their attitude as well. What an easy way to make a difference. Now, my favorite example of this is Wayne the waiter. Bajillion years ago, I was at a chiropractic seminar in Orlando, and a bunch of us were going out to dinner at Hemingway's. Great crab legs, by the way. Excuse me. Anyway, our server introduced himself as Wayne and asked how we were. And of course, being that chiropractic group, we responded with our uber positive, oh, we're near perfect, oh, we're fabulous, etc. But when we asked Wayne how he was doing, he replied he was grateful. And then he went on to share a few of his blessings. And honestly, I was blown away. Ever since then, I can't help wondering what our world would be like if each time someone asked us how we're doing, we said, I'm grateful, and then possibly share a reason why. Now, another reason I like to share my Wayne story is because if a waiter could have that kind of impact on me with just those two words, I'm grateful. Imagine the difference that you as a CA can make in the lives of your clients and the people in your community. Again, it's staggering. All right, moving along. Consider how you show up physically. Think about your appearance. Now, occasionally everyone needs a little brush up on this, but look at yourself today and decide, are you all put together or almost put together? I had to be recorded, so I tried to be all together. But almost put together is, basically ready. So if you show up in the morning with wet hair or wrinkled or stained clothing, you spilled something or you're still eating breakfast as you walk in the door of your office, think of the message that sends. Remember your image and the image of your doctor and the image of the practice, not to mention the profession, they're all tied together. So looking ready is just the very first step. Otherwise, you're giving off signals to the universe that you're not ready for patients, for new patients to walk in or call, whatever. So make sure that you're on time and that your attitude and appearance are at the highest level possible. According to Brian Tracy, your clothes are responsible for, get this, 95% of the first impression that you make on someone. So I'm a big fan of dressing for success. People do judge books by their covers, and they feel that they get what they pay for. You can collect higher fees when you portray a higher image. Up-leveling your appearance also helps you convey confidence and certainty, and that puts your clients at ease in your practice. And bottom line, we want to dress at least as well as our ideal new patient dresses. All right. Regardless of what's going on in your life, the show must go on. So no matter what happens, when the curtains go up, the door is unlocked in your practice, it is showtime. So you want to compare your performance in the practice to a show and make every day the best performance possible. The difference is it's not fake because you get to play the role of the best you can be, that authentic self. And trust me, that is awesome. I don't even know you, and I know as a CA, you are brilliant and you're full of light and energy. It can be so much fun to do what we do. There's genius and power and magic in being bold. So personally, before I unlock the front door when we open, I like to hear an announcer in my head say, and today the role of superstar CA will be played by Kim Klapp, followed of course by thunderous applause that I hear in my head. All right. Now, you may not resonate with hearing voices in your head. That may be disturbing for you. But whatever it takes for you, as I mentioned, we center ourselves and prepare for the day ahead during our team huddle every morning. And speaking of team huddles, one of my ACE members reported that just by adding my 3-minute morning huddle, their practice volume increased by, get this, 10%. Talk about a small change that makes a huge difference. And that's something that I cover the details in my team building course. But all right, what about when you show up and you don't feel your emotional best? Well, one of the easiest things you can do is to change your physical state. In other words, check your nonverbal signals. Now, I am a big fan of deep breathing because when you do it correctly, it makes such a positive change. For those of you who don't know, you want to just put your hand on your belly. And when you breathe in, your hand should go out. And when you exhale, the hand should go in. Usually we are shallow breathers and do it backwards. But if you, hit pause if you're watching the recording or just do some breathing while you're listening, It makes a huge difference. It really calms and centers yourself. Can't do it right now. Another way to change your state is to smile broadly because you feel better when you smile. Smiling can help reduce those levels of the stress enhancing hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, and dopamine. And it increases the level of your mood enhancing hormones like endorphins. So smile broadly and look up. Think about it. Where do people look who are depressed? Yeah, they tend to look down, right? People who feel down look downward. We want to focus on what's up. When things are getting better, we even use the phrase that things are looking up. So send your brain that message by physically looking up, basically 45 degrees over the horizon. And stand up or sit up straight. As CAs, of course, we should have great posture. But one of the benefits is it actually affects your mood. One of my favorites to do is to skip around the office. That is a huge energy boost. So also, if you need help changing your state, you can think of a magic moment in your life. Hopefully you've got tons of magic moments as memories. And use that memory, anything wonderful and positive as a resource. Anything that warms your heart, cuddling with a pet, a baby giggling, a child's hug. But see it again in your mind and, re-experience the enjoyment all over again from your perspective. Feel it all over again. Or you can sing your PMA theme song. That stands for Positive Mental Attitude. Like Hakuna Matata, try anything, reach for the light, touch the sky, let it go. As you can tell, I'm a huge Disney fan. Or you can wear a wristband as a reminder to focus on the positive. But whatever it takes to get you into that ready mode so that you can show up as your best self. All right, now that we've talked about the message that you're sending, let's talk about the message your practice environment is sending. First off, on the negative side, do you need to change your office name to Circus Chiropractic? Again, I know as CAs, there's always so much to juggle, appointments and codes and the phone and the front desk and payments, compliance, marketing, and how you manage that definitely matters. But realize that your environment is constantly sending out signals about your doctor, about you, and your practice. And chaos repels patience. Are you constantly having to search for patient files or for forms? That sends the wrong message to patients that they themselves and their information are not important enough for you to keep track of. Think about if your front desk area is cluttered and dusty versus tidy and clean, because that obviously also sends a message. What about any paper forms that you still use in your office? Are your copies barely readable, just ghosts of an image, or do they look crisp and easy to read? Realize those poor quality copies send the message that basically the doctor's too cheap to replace the toner or ink cartridges. Probably not the message you want to send. Are you constantly losing the front desk pen, making patients have to ask for one? Well, that sends a message that you're disorganized and unprepared. Are you sending out signals that you're overwhelmed, too busy, stressed out? If so, patients will pick up on that. And rather than adding to your stress by coming in, they won't come back. Now, of course, this is not a conscious decision, but again, you need to understand that stress repels patients. We want to be in that positive environment, right? A couple of years ago, I visited an office in Michigan that had about 50 magazines on their reception room table. Now, granted, they were very organized, arranged neatly in rows, kind of like cocktail napkins. However, think about the message that sends. Now, I understand the doctor intended to merely offer a variety of reading material, but the message it sends to a patient is sit down, get settled in, because there's going to be a significant wait. You might as well just, slap a copy of War and Peace in your reception room. But speaking of waiting, if your patients are repeatedly experiencing long waits for care, why would they refer their friends and family to a doctor that doesn't respect their time? They're not stupid. If they refer other people, that's going to make their own wait even longer. All right. And make sure that you are physically at the front desk. Imagine that there's an electronic fence that's going to taser you if you leave the front desk unattended. Or pretend that at least you need to hand off a relay baton to someone else in your team. My point is, no, don't actually taser someone. But it's really important that you don't leave the front desk unattended. And that's for a couple reasons. The first is for security, both of your cash drawer as well as any private health information of your clients. The second is for reception. If no one's there, you start wondering, are you in the right place? If that's ever happened to you, if you walk into like a restaurant or a store, you start looking around thinking, oh, maybe they're not open. Did I come in the wrong door? Maybe I shouldn't be here. Obviously, that's not what we want our patients thinking. So these are certainly some examples of negative messages. Let's move along to continue towards the positive end. Yay! So a couple times a day, get up and look at your front office from the patient's perspective. I know you've heard this before, but do you do it? Check to see what message it's sending. Yep, I mean, actually stand on the other side of the desk. When you do that, if it seems strange, you're not doing it nearly enough. Make sure your entrance is clear of debris, of cigarette butts, depending upon the time of year or where you live, of leaves, of snow. Make sure you have a clear path to your door. If you want more people coming in, remove all barriers to achieve congruence with what it is you want. Make sure all the lights are working inside and out. Remember, chiropractic turns the power on. So also, like I mentioned, make sure your desk area and reception room are free of clutter. We want to keep the front office an uber positive zone. I love this Facebook review that actually mentioned our positive environment that promotes health and wellness. So I'm going to run through some examples of what this gentleman is referring to. Thanks, Jason. Have lettering put on your front door to set the tone. I personally love this double entendre of the sign I created for our practice, which, as you can see, is wellness starts inside. Our reception area has more of a family room feel. Our large wall explains, express your health, love, gratitude, peace, truth, joy, light, potential. That definitely impacts everyone who sees it and creates a positive impression. Much different than if you walk into urgent care, right? You don't get that message. We keep an umbrella stand by the door with a huge umbrella so we can escort any patients to their car who get trapped in our office by unexpected rain. Another wall in our reception room is our chiropractic kids area. That's got information on the benefits of chiropractic for pregnant moms, newborns, and toddlers, plus the kitchen area that all kids seem to love. We also have a poster about why kids need care and how we have a monthly toy drawing for kids who get their spine checked each month. We have a diaper changing station in our restroom because patients love this when they ask if there's somewhere they can go to change their baby. That plus having a step stool at the sink for kids is congruent with wanting to care for families and more children. You just want to make it friendly. We also get raves about our fairy door. It's a big thing in Ann Arbor where I live. There's posters and books about it. Ours is just inches tall. I'd say about this far. But one of our CAs actually started decorating the door for each season. But again, when kids discover it in the practice, they get so excited. We have organic candle melts. Not only do they make the office smell great, but they symbolize light and peace. Always the music that we play is always positive and upbeat or soothing, depending upon the time of day, and no commercials. We always have a bowl of apples on our front desk, sending the messages about nurturing and health. And we've gotten numerous reviews, positive reviews, and letters about that. In addition to obviously having filtered water stations available. We often have fresh flowers at our front desk, symbolizing beauty and light. Of course, it helps that one of our clients owns a florist. And as I mentioned, you saw our mission statement already, but we have it framed up on our wall to help our clients understand that Dr. Tom was principled and a visionary. To quote BJ Palmer again, who can anchor to an unanchored mind. And we have our monthly featured Simple Steps brochure because we focus on one of 16 core topics in our practice. Again, education is part of our mission. And we keep a poster by the front desk encouraging public compliments of referrals and online reviews and private complaints. Throughout the office, we have a QR code that takes them right to the page on our website, where depending upon if it's a thumbs up or thumbs down, they're either going to get a landing page of a Google review form or a feedback contact form. So there's lots of ways to put the extra in extraordinary. One of our favorite desk calendars is Happiness Now by Robert Holden, and our clients love it. We also keep an affirmation bowl for patients on our front desk. We call those our pickup lines because we want to help our clients focus on the positive. I know I've been to other chiropractic offices that have really cool stuff, aquariums and waterfalls and fireplaces and pool tables, basketball free throw games, gumball machines with healthy snacks, herbal tea stations, you name it. But remember, even the little things can make a big difference. Holding the door for clients, helping them on with their coats, feeding their parking meters, and of course, hugs with permission, of course. But anything that sends a positive message is congruent with your doctor's practice vision. That's going to give them something to remember and tell others about. More and more will start saying, you know what I love about my chiropractor's office? All right, on to our fourth step, and that's to build a relationship. And every positive relationship needs a rich foundation. And that's an acronym that I created where the R is for respect. Respecting each patient as the individual that they are and respecting their time. Again, back to one of our core values. The I is for integrity, simply being truthful with yourself. Being congruent with what you know, what you say, and what you do, where everything keeps moving in the same direction. The C is for caring, having genuine concern for the well-being of others and empathizing. New patients are often scared and hesitant, confused, frustrated, anxious, stressed, not to mention symptomatic. The H is for honesty, being truthful with others, even when you make a mistake. Being honest about your recommendations, about your fees, your procedures, etc. So once we understand this rich foundation, next we need to make a connection. You know, People form a first impression in seconds, and it's crucial for your practice that it be a positive one. The studies from Princeton University show that our initial judgments of another person are formed within one tenth of 1 second. And remember, there are no redos, no do-overs, no rewind button. So stop and figure out, how much does the bad first impression cost? Well, let's think about your case average. Let's say it's $4,000. What would it cost your office to lose a prospective patient? It does just cost your practice that $4,000 if your new patient doesn't return. Instead, multiply that $4,000 by all their potential future referrals for their spouse, each child, their friends, their coworkers. Again, it's staggering. So, not to mention, money aside, there is no way for your doctor to help people that you can't schedule. That's just one reason that everyone who calls your office should be treated with care, concern, and respect, or who shows up. All right, think about how you feel when you call an insurance company for benefits and are stuck on hold. Kind of like this, right? It's frustrating and annoying. So consider this though. You're getting paid to sit on hold and it still sucks. Excuse me. So why would you want your patients feeling that way? People don't like waiting on the phone any more than they like waiting unnecessarily in your office. And I love this cartoon. The caption says, "Thank you for continuing to hold. Your wait time is approximately 70 minutes. If you'd like to pretend you're poking me in the eye, press 1. My bottom line here is to hold on to patients, avoid putting them on hold whenever possible. Now, also another opinion, an automated phone answering system, it's not the most warm, fuzzy, or friendly first impression. That computerized voice, the web of press this number for this department, is that the type of first impression you want in your practice? Is it congruent with an exceptional experience that creates raves and referrals? Probably not. Now, I know if you happen to be a 1CA office, you're going to need to utilize a hold feature, but I highly recommend having a live person answer the phone whenever possible. Now, if you do need help on how to make a better phone connection, and there's lots of information on that, I cover that in detail in my Lifeline Basics course for new CAs. But remember, it's the first impression that's the one that lasts. So do what you can to make it fabulous. And whether the patient is on the phone in your office, whether the patient is on the phone or in your office, practice expectation management. In other words, you want to let patients know what to expect beforehand and then follow through. It's kind of like using your turn signal when you're driving to indicate that you're going to be changing lanes. If you let someone know in advance, where they should go, what you'll be doing, how long it's going to take, you'll put them at ease. And we're all about creating ease, right? Now, the way to use this to create an exceptional experience is to underpromise and overdeliver. We do that with how long our first visit's going to take. And that's what creates those happy, satisfied clients who stay, pay, and refer. Now, expectation management is the foundational success principle in our office, and we apply it to most of our communication. But it's especially key with the new patient experience and at the front desk. All right, building rapport, another fabulous way to build a relationship, to bridge the gap between you and a new patient, or you and someone who's now coming into your office that hasn't been there in a while. Now, there's strategies to making a connection of trust, and they include, finding common ground, focusing on similarities, compliments, touch. That's why it's so important to shake hands with your new patients, or to touch existing clients on their arm, their shoulder, their back. We want to cultivate that innate to innate bond. Do you realize that when you touch someone, it releases oxytocin to help them feel connected to you and by association to your practice? What an easy action step to make a difference, and to make yourself feel great at the same time. Another way to build rapport is by tracking what's important to them. Use your appointment software for that. But once you track what's important to them and you refer back to the details of their life, that's going to help them realize how special they are to you. So a quick, "Hey, was your trip to Hawaii amazing? Did your daughter make the softball team? Did you like that new restaurant you tried? Is your kitten still adorable?" We, of course, definitely want to focus on chiro chat in our office, but we also want to make our clients feel important with a quick yes or no question. So again, appointment notes in your software make it super simple to remember the details of everyone's life. Here's the bottom line with that. When it's clear to your clients that they're important to you, you'll become more important to them. All right. Another way you can build a relationship is by using the Boy Scout motto. Yep, be prepared. Utilize efficient office systems to enable you to respect your patient's time. Be organized. Keep everything within arm's reach so you don't need to leave the front desk area unattended. Instead of making a client wait while you go and find a file and print it out, have the forms on hand. Have everything prepared before you open. Have everything prepared before every visit. That way you can be in ready mode for your patients. For those of you who remember Fantasy Island, before the guests would arrive via seaplane, Mr. Rourke used to get everybody ready. The music would start, the drinks would come out, and smiles, everyone smiles. All right, so let's talk about how to build that relationship when a patient walks in your office. I like to suggest utilizing the 10-4 rule. That means when a patient is 10 feet away, you make eye contact, and when they're 4 feet away, you add a smile. And so make sure you're starting and ending every interaction with direct eye contact and a sincere smile. I promise they'll feel it. And address them with their preferred name. And make sure that your name tag is on and it's in a large enough font that's easy to read, even for your senior clients, because that helps to form a bond when you're able to call someone by their name. As Dale Carnegie said, remember that a person's name to that person is the sweetest and most important sound in any language. So again, use their preferred name often. Think about when you greet someone at the front desk. Let's start by tackling those greetings you want to avoid. This is one of my favorite cartoons where the caption from the chiropractor to the CA is, "Gloria, I'd appreciate if you'd stop greeting patients with 'Welcome to the crack house.'" It is a major pet peeve of mine when I walk into a restaurant, and instead of the hostess greeting me kindly, she says, "Do you have a reservation?" Or the host will just say, "How many?" That is not a greeting. Just like if someone walks into your practice and you don't recognize them, last name, also not a greeting. And of course, the other hot button greeting you want to avoid is, "How are you?" Because the patient could say what? Well, yep, lousy, terrible, blah, 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 etc. And if you don't want to hear the negatives, don't give them that option of complaining by asking how they are. Instead, try, "Hey, Barb, it's wonderful to see you. What's great with you today?" That's an example of a strategic question where you ask a question in a specific manner that only allows acceptable answers. Now, you can employ strategic questions when you're asking for appointments or payments or referrals. That's just one of the topics that we cover in the communication strategies course. All right, back to relationship building at the front desk, and hopefully we're going to get through some more of this. Understand that the two reasons people really quit care, I apologize, the locks, are not time or money like you see on the screen. Instead, it's being ignored or by being ignorant. So your challenge, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to always convey two keys to every patient on every visit, and that will help them have an exceptional experience. The first key is what's in your heart. And as a CA, I have a pretty good idea. It's that you care, that the patient's important to you, and that you're grateful that they've chosen your practice. The second key is that their chiropractic care is critical. And they need to understand both keys with each interaction. And if you can convey those, you will make such a huge difference in your practice. Now, the easiest way to keep patients from being ignored is through focus. And I cannot overemphasize that. Aside from the doctor, the front desk has the most important job. Otherwise, there's nothing to bill, nothing to collect, because the person at the front desk can really make or break the patient's experience. You're the one who determines whether they pay, stay, and refer or not. We don't want to be task-oriented. That's not our focus. That's not our goal. And inadvertently send the message that the patient's an interruption rather than the focus. Whatever you were doing, you can finish later. Whether it's filling out a form, checking on my insurance benefits, conversing with a team member, you can do all that later. So you don't want to hold your finger up to a patient and say, "Just a second." Remember, it might as well be them signing your paycheck. So no matter what you're doing when a client approaches, stop and refocus all of your attention on that client in front of you. Put everything else on hold, put them in the spotlight, focus everything on them. Make sure to center conversation on them, not you. We don't want to talk about our vacation, our shopping find, our issues. Patients are not your therapists. So get clear, you're here for them. No patients nor practice benefit from an emotionally needy CA at the front desk. Now, of course, occasionally there might be some tragedy that happens in your life. Your dog has died. Oh, hate that. Sorry. And it's absolutely awful, but your clients should know about it. They shouldn't see your sadness because you're not there to support. They're not there to support you. You're there to support them. Now, I'm not saying that if you do go through a tragedy, you don't need support and love. Of course you do. But your patient shouldn't be the source of that. So keep it behind the curtain. Remember, remember who you're focusing on. We want to make them feel special. And let's see here what we're going to zip through and cut out today. Oh, yep, we all walk around with the invisible tattoo that says MMFI. That stands for Make Me Feel Important. So again, we want to make sure that we make every client feel welcome. People are like houseplants. Not only do you need to water them, but once a week you need to turn them, because houseplants grow towards the light. And if you are that light, patients will grow towards you too. I'm going to go ahead and take a break because I know that Mike's going to probably want to get on. Mike, are you going to want to get on, or are you going to let me go late?
I am here.
Okay, because we've got a lot of information to get through still. I apologize. I always like to give more than expected.
Well, we'll have to have you back because this has been great, and as you've been talking through these scenarios, it comes to my mind, experience I've had in chiropractic offices through the years, and thinking, wow, that was not an exceptional experience. So we do have just a few time for a quick few questions. First one that came in: how do I motivate my front desk to do tasks without being told to do them? After telling them 10 to 20 times, I want autonomy.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
Actually, of course, there's just so many ways to do that. Let me get it there. That all relates to office systems. It starts with the right hire, obviously, and then excellent training systems. I do have on my website, chiropracticassistants.com, 14 core topics. Every one of them is comprehensive. I would say that the one on office systems would be the most helpful for this situation, because honestly, there are daily duty checklists, where you're taking the onus of you having to look over someone's shoulder and put it on them to make sure that they are responsible for doing the work. Once someone's trained and being empowered to do their work and understanding the why behind everything, that's what makes it so much easier for someone to do their job and to be compliant. Again, I don't seem to be able to get it back on the screen, but unfortunately, there's just a ton of different topics, like I said, that I can help with. All of them are comprehensive. All of them are over an hour. They're all broken up into modules. They all have all the forms, scripts, tools, etc., that you need in them. And again, I'm always looking for ways I can help other people reach higher levels of excellence.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Can you say that website again one more time?
Sure. It's chiropracticassistants.com, and it's spelled out ANTS at the end. Forgot that I made a homonym when I started it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and stop there. We're about 2 minutes before the hour, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. First of all, Kim, thank you for talking with us today. Great information. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Before we go, I'd like to remind our listeners of our resources page on ncmic.com. The webinar will be posted there as soon as the recording is processed, and you can find our past webinars out there as well. While on the resources page, have a look around. We have a ton of information on many topics focused on your daily practice. You can also keep up to date on new resources from NCMIC by following us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Our next webinar, again, is scheduled for Thursday, June 15th at 2 p.m. Central Time. I hope you will be able to join us. And once again, thanks for listening. Kim, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure.